Hello, and welcome to this very educational and informative episode of Waking Up Wealthy. I'm keeping it really, really practical here, and just want to say a few things before we get started. Just want to share that this is my first solo episode that I'm recording from Bali, and I have so much to say about leaving the United States and living abroad. Where do I even begin? It is so much. So many feelings, so many ideas, thoughts, beliefs that have come up. And I feel like I need to do a whole episode just on that, which is, I think I'm going to record for the end of this month. And I also wanted to share that I've been dealing with some upper respiratory illnesses or illness that has just, it's been over a past week and a half that it's been very hard not to cough. So bear with me on that. Hopefully those can be edited out. So, for this episode, I really wanted to address tariffs and how they're going to affect you, because they will affect you. And initially I wrote a post about this and I shared it with my community, and that's all good. But I wanted to go into a little bit more detail. I wanted to share 3 money moves you can make right now to position yourself ahead of these changes. And I'm also going to share with you, which I didn't share on social media or with my email list, the specific things that I'm doing to basically position myself. Because even though I'm living outside of the United States, my bank accounts, my business, all of that is still in the United States, just our bodies and our daily living is elsewhere. So first, a little bit on background and economics. So economics is not my area of expertise. I have neither training in economics nor that much experience in it, except for the research and investigation that I do in order to support my clients with the investments. I do keep my pulse on what's going on with crypto and other investments, and with my mentor who's securities licensed, to be able to provide the best service for my clients and, right, obviously to protect my friends and family and myself. So for the purpose of this podcast, I'm going to provide you with some general background information to contextualize what I'm going to share with you. So I'm focusing on American markets, of course, because this is the eye of the shitstorm. This is where it's all happening. So let me begin by saying that when companies get hit with tariffs, right, they end up passing the cost to the consumer, right, because they want to protect their bottom line. So that $500 laptop that you were looking at is now going to be $625, right? It's the $500 plus 25% tariffs added. So what tariffs do essentially is that they decrease consumer surplus, which is what you get for your dollar, right? Your spending power. And obviously inflation also affects your spending power. And we know that it's leveling out now, but it has been sort of at an all-time high. Average tends to be 3%. And tariffs also increase producer surplus, which is what companies make. Although, honestly, I don't see companies making a huge profit during this time either, unless they offer a very specific service that people absolutely need and are not willing to give up. But, obviously with boycotts happening and, Target and Walmart and all those types of things, those companies may be seeing, right, a drop in their profits, which is great, right? That's exactly what boycotts are designed to do. And so when you add to this that consumer sentiment is at revolutionary lows, right? Levels, it's below 55 points. And usually, under 80 is a warning sign for the economy, meaning that it's giving recession vibes, right? And I use the word revolutionary in this context because it's about damn time that consumers have some feelings about capitalism and how these structures are harming people and how, wealth is distributed, right? So it's giving recession vibes. And, I feel like that's a really weird thing to read in the news, because everybody knows, or most people have been feeling, that we're in a recession. It's been a silent recession. Nobody's been saying it out loud, but we've all been feeling it, right? With the ridiculous increases in groceries, you can see it in your grocery bill. You can see the rents going up higher. God, at the beginning of the pandemic, what was it? I was paying $1,200, and then before I left, I was paying $1,200 to $2,000 in the span of 5 years, with not an increased level of like, lifestyle, right, in the apartment. I was just like 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, right? So when people talk about consumer sentiment, right, that's down 55 from 80 points, it usually means people's feelings about the stock market specifically, their confidence in the economy. And when this confidence drops, people spend less, companies earn less, and the economy ends up slowing down, right? Yeah, and I don't think that any of those things are necessarily a bad thing. They're a bad thing for the existing economy. And I'm sure that, like me, you knew that the system we're existing in was eventually going to fail, right? It wasn't a sustainable system. Capitalism isn't a sustainable system. And maybe you didn't think it was going to happen in your lifetime, which is fair. I didn't think so either, but here we are. And it happened quite quickly, right? Because this is sort of like it just kind of did a big dip, and it's been making a dip, just not as radical as it is now with all of these other factors inserted in there. So here we are. It's going to suck really bad for a while, and I'm also welcoming it. And I invite you to welcome it as well, to just be like, okay, this is going to suck for a while, but we'll get through it. We can do hard things, right? We're definitely in a tower moment, and I have a tremendous amount of faith that what's coming is going to be so much better. Like what's coming after this insane clown shit show circus, it's going to be so much better. It's going to lead to better, right? The light after the storm, or whatever, the morning after, however the metaphor goes, calm after the storm or whatever. Before, I don't know. You have your own sayings, okay? I didn't grow up in the contiguous United States. That stuff is secondhand for me anyway. But we are definitely in a tower moment, and the collapse of structures and paradigms, whether it's the economic system or the educational system, it's all coming down right now in a really radical way. So yes, the destruction of anything is not fun to witness. And if you've ever been through a breakup or a divorce with a toxic person, you know how much discomfort and pain is involved. And that is really a necessary part of the alchemical process. So let's go through it, and let's go through it together. And I really mean that when I say that. If you're listening to this and you're not on my email list, get on it. Get the fuck on. Invite a friend to get the fuck on. Let your friend know about this podcast, because I'm going to be tracking things with you. I'm going to be informing you. You don't even have to pay me. This is a free podcast, right? I want people to have the information. That's the most important part for me. So I'm going to be sharing so many new things coming over the next several months, from investment opportunities to in-person events. Like strategy stuff. Trust me, you don't want to miss these when they drop. Okay. So I gave you the context of the tariffs from the perspective of how it's going to affect your bottom line, right? Your spending power. So here's how to position yourself ahead of these changes. So number one, you want to build a money system. And a money system, all that is a way to organize your money, organize your finances. Most people don't have a money system. So I want you to ask yourself, how much money are you spending on expenses? How much money are you putting away towards investments? How much are you saving? This is essentially part of what I do when I sit down with people. I help them come up with a savings plan. Usually I recommend for people to save 25% of their income, because I know the average person in the United States saves only 10% of their income. Basically, whatever's left over at the end of the month. And a lot of people are even breaking even, so there's nothing left over to save. So we need to be more intentional about savings and investments. So you need to have a money system. So in Japan and in Germany, for example, you have people saving 25% of their income, so that you can see definitely there are cultural differences in how people save, how they identify as savers, that kind of thing. So I want you to be identifying as a saver, and I've talked about that in other episodes of this podcast. But for this kind of situation with the tariffs, I recommend moving from 25% of your income going to savings and investments to 50% of your savings, right? 50% of what you make goes to expenses and 50% goes to savings and investments. Before I was doing like 25%, but we need to increase it, right? Because we need to sort of put more away. So it might mean that you need to earn more money. So that 50% that you're setting aside towards like not expenses, 25% of that is going to go towards investments, and 25% of that is going to go towards savings. And if you can't save 50% of your monthly income, which most people can't, let's face it, right? Let's be real. Open up another stream of income, preferably something that's passive. I know it blows to hear this. It blows to be having to tell this to you, to say this to you, because I know so many people are just getting by. And I know what it feels like to have to be discerning about every dollar that comes in, because over the last 18 months, I've paid $18,000 in loan debt, $10,000 in medical bills for my hysterectomy. I kept a roof over my head, an expensive roof over my head. I paid for all the expenses relating to raising children and simply existing in the United States while trying to leave the United States, and this all as a single parent without a credit card. So yes, I know what it's like to have to live within a specific margin of error, and kind of a tight margin of error. So there are real behavioral changes that you're going to need to make, that are going to need to happen in order for you to be able to create this money system. You're going to have to have conversations with your spouse. You're going to need to change your identity from consumer to creator to saver. And again, I've mentioned these things in different episodes, but this is something that I think bears repeating. So number 2, you're going to need to maximize every single dollar that comes into your bank account. That means no mindless spending. Everything is intentional. Everything is purposeful. No closing your eyes and just swiping the credit card and hoping that, oh yes, it's going to go through this time. I want you to be mindful and aware of everything that you purchase. In other words, is it really worth it for you to spend this money on this particular thing? Is this the best allocation of your dollars, or is it better spent somewhere else? Is it better invested? Is it better saved? Right? I want you to be deciding every time you spend money. I want you to be making decisions. Right? This builds confidence over time. It's a great exercise to become more discerning and to set boundaries with yourself, with your partner, with your children, around how we maximize our money, how we use our wealth, how we distribute. So essentially, you want to be giving every dollar a job towards whatever goals you have. If it is to become an expat, do that. If it is to purchase land and become food sovereign, do that. If it is investing in for retirement, then have your dollars going there. And if money is energy, and I believe that it is, you're going to need to get hyper efficient with it. And what that means is setting boundaries around how you spend, right? So you become efficient with your energy. You protect your energy just the same way that you protect your cash flow. So get used to having frequent money dates as well to track your progress. This can be a fun and exciting thing. Most people see this as like a burden. It is not a burden. You are developing a relationship with your money. You are in a loving and lasting relationship with money. Why wouldn't you want to kiss it on its neck once in a while? Once in a week is not a lot to ask. And multiple times a week really fosters a beautiful, beautiful relationship. And as part of all this, it's okay to delay gratification. It's a good exercise. It's a good practice. And yeah, you know, you can spend on anything you want. And there are ways that I spent during those 18 months that I was really like focused. I spent it on ice cream for my kids. I traveled, I did things. But I did them when I had wiggle room. I invited my children to, go out and eat ice cream in particular, or we went out to the movies when I felt like, yes, it is time for us to loosen up in this moment. It is time for us to, build enjoyment into our money system, right? It's all part of how you design it. So this 50-50 split between spending and saving, you definitely want to have pleasure built in as part of your plan, as part of your budget. So that's how wealth is built over time. So you want to be also eliminating high interest consumer debt immediately. And I've already lost count on how many money moves, but I think it's going to be more than 3. So whatever, my brain is my brain. I know you're hanging with me. So eliminate high interest consumer debt immediately. I have a whole episode on debt that I recorded at the end of season 4, I believe. So if you want more in-depth, more detail on that, listen to that episode after you finish this one. So I see so many people paying off their credit cards little by little. Like they'll have like a $300 balance and they're paying $20 a month. That drives me absolute crazy because they have the money to pay it off, the full $300, but they're not doing it. And it's almost as if they're trying to punish the credit card company by withholding the full payment. But this is ridiculous because you're just paying them more in interest over time. You don't have to pay it little by little to keep your interest, like not your interest, your credit score high. Okay, to improve your credit score, just pay it off every month. Just pay it off. Most people are flabbergasted when I show them what they're going to be paying in interest if they continue paying off their credit cards using their like little by little or drip method payment schedule. The average credit card APR, when I think about it, the average that I see is 20 to 28%. I know that there are lower credit card percentages, but I don't see them. The lowest I've seen is 18, and the highest I've seen is 32, if you can believe that. So 20 to 28 is usually the range that I see. And, in my business, we have a few vehicles, like we have a few investment strategies where you see some nice double-digit returns, like average of 17%, which is well above average, but none of them consistently outperform 20 to 28% like you have on the credit cards. So if you make debt elimination a priority, that's your biggest return on investment move right now. So another thing that I want you to consider, and I think this is number 3, I want you to think about investing against the crowd. Sorry, I had to cough really hard right there. So the markets move with people's emotions, and the more regulated you are, the more stable the economy is. But clearly, we're not there right now. And people generally don't understand how markets move because most of us, when we learn home economics, we're not learning about economics. We're learning how to manage money at home, or how to save money, but we're not really learning about the bigger markets. We're not learning about the bigger economy. And, when markets go up, people generally tend to buy. They get greedy, they get excited. They're like, oh, I want in on this too, right? They get FOMO, they want to belong, and then they buy. When the markets go down, people freak out, they panic, they sell. And long-term investors do the opposite. When the stocks are down, that's the time to do shopping. But I don't want you to drop a huge lump sum on stocks or crypto right now, like at the same time, like, because I'm thinking they're going to keep going down before they go up again. That's just my feeling. That's just my intuition, not financial advice here. So what I urge you to do is to practice dollar cost averaging, which is regularly investing when the numbers are down. So that means maybe $500 let's say every 2 weeks, every week if you want to do that, or maybe $1,000 a month, right? So doing it over time, that allows you to level out wins versus losses. There's a very technical piece around it that I'm not going to explain, but basically those people who practice dollar cost averaging tend to do better over a longer period of time. So if you have a long time horizon, definitely practice that. And that's what I do with crypto anyway. Yeah, and do dollar cost averaging into solid investments. When others are fearful, that's what you're practicing. And do your research, whether it's crypto, whether it's other stocks, really use your instinct, use your intuition. This is where, you can invest with your ancestors. And maybe I do a whole episode on manifesting with your ancestors. That's the whole thing. But yeah, like follow your inner guidance, whatever, your system is saying, like, okay, yeah, I feel like that's I feel like that's a project that I want to get behind. Follow your instinct. So most people get into a freeze state when the markets drop, which is why a little education and a lot of regulation can go a long way. So you don't want to panic, you want to prepare. And part of the way that I'm preparing is investing the maximum I possibly can into my and my children's indexed universal life plan. So the indexed universal life plan, or IUL for short, is a life insurance policy that builds cash value over time. So the best part of this vehicle is that the money grows in an account that is protected from market losses. Like even when the market goes down, you have what's called a floor, and you don't go below zero, right? So you never go into the negatives. Your original investment is protected, and whatever you've gained on top of the investment is protected. So that's why you get to see me chill during this economy. I'm not panicking. I'm not making a lot of money. I'm not excited about that, but at least I'm not losing anything. The other part that I love is that it's a tax advantaged vehicle, which means that you're able to access cash value without having to pay taxes on it, right? And you can pull it out prior to 59 and a half. So it's not like it's intended, you can intend for it to be towards retirement, but it can also save you in a pinch. So I have that going on for my kids. I invest a specific amount of money a month, and I'm investing more and maxing it out as much as possible so that my money is protected and not in bank accounts. The other thing I'm doing is reducing my monthly expenses by living somewhere else with a more affordable cost of living. And that's not the original reason I moved to Bali. It's not the only reason I moved, but it is part of it. And that allows me to maximize what I can to put towards investments and savings. And if I weren't able to leave the country, I would probably find a way to share a living space with someone. In my case, I might have moved in with my mother, who lives alone, if she would have allowed me to live with her. And if I didn't live close to family, or if I couldn't live with a parent, I would probably move in with a friend who had children, right, with another family in a big house where we could all sort of cohabitate. And while some of you may feel uncomfortable with that, or might feel like it goes against your values, or you feel like it's like a downwardly mobile move, let me tell you right now, that's what we're moving towards. When you think about not only the rising cost of rent, the exorbitant rent that is being charged, and the way that we are shifting from individualism towards collectivism, That's what I see happening. I see us forced into that situation in a way, but I also feel that is what is needing to happen on a spiritual level, is to break down this idea of, like, this idea that each family lives in a little nuclear bubble. That idea is dying. That model is dead. It breeds isolation. It breeds loneliness. It breeds anxiety and depression. Yeah, you name it. It's just not good for our mental health. And I feel like it is an opportunity for us to really explore, like, what does it take relationally to share space with someone else. And this is something I'm going to share a little bit more in the next episode, when I do talk about more of, like, why I moved to Bali, why I moved out of the United States. I think it'll be really, really enlightening. So anyway, the other thing, yeah, I'm putting a bunch more also. Like, another thing that I'm doing is putting a bunch more money towards my backup savings. Usually I recommend people have 3 months worth, and that's sort of what I had in place. But now I'm building a 6-month emergency fund in a high yield savings account, that even though, you may see some fluctuation with the APR, it's better than 0.03% APR, which is not outpacing inflation. So you want to have at least 3.5% APR, if not better. Like, the highest I've seen is 4.5 APR. So I'm building the 6 months there. And the other thing I'm doing is investing in other projects and businesses. These are very much still in progress, so I won't talk specifically about what I'm doing because it hasn't fully happened yet. I haven't investigated, like, how legit everything is. The T's haven't been crossed nor the I's dotted. So once it's fully formed and once I've decided it's a sound, clean investment, I will share it with you. So again, get on my email list. But you do know, I hope you know, that I did take over the lease of a small hotel in Bali, and I'm living with my friend and colleague, Leah Ardent. So right now we're in the process of figuring out just what we're going to do with it. It's very exciting time here, and we're just kind of letting our imaginations run wild, and, like, how can we build a business, or build a business system where, we're renting the spaces out, and we're monetizing it in a way that feels like it's aligned with our purpose and it's aligned with our environmental values, right? All of that kind of stuff. So everything that I just shared with you is how the top 1% build generational wealth during economic storms, right? They build business systems, they become investors, right? And I shared with you the specific ways of investing. I shared with you what percentage of money you should be setting aside for savings and investments, and how you can be cutting down on expenses. And I get it. Expenses, like living expenses, are expensive, right? When you think about the cost of your phone, cost of internet, electricity, rents, all those things are high. I gave you some tips around the cohabitation. And yeah, I want you to think about this like a hurricane. When a hurricane is moving towards you, you prepare for that as well, right? You don't know how big the hurricane is going to be when it actually lands, right? You're giving you, like, well, the winds are about 15 miles per hour right now. They could increase, they could decrease. We don't know. But you want to make sure that you have water, supplies, like batteries, flashlights, matches, candles, that sort of thing, right? You want to be diversified in what you have set aside, because nobody knows how this is going to play out. Yes, there are a lot of people speculating about what's going to happen, but they don't know exactly what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, how bad it's going to be. So you want to be prepared. So the key is really to start positioning yourself today. And if you're looking to do this for yourself, right, me or someone on my team is available. In the show notes, you will find a link to apply for a complimentary financial strategy session where we move you through the 6 steps of financial independence. That's complimentary as well. And if you're curious about opening another stream of income in financial services, if you want to join my team just reach out to me, send me an email, DM me over Facebook or Instagram, and I will respond and set up an interview with you and see if you're a good fit for my team, right? If it's a match. So let's just do this, like I said, together. All right? I will see you in the next episode.